Mike Briggs is our cattle market analyst this week. U.S. beef and veal exports continue to struggle. Shipments in August were down nearly 24% from August of last year, and there were big declines among the top buyers. Japan fell 38%, Mexico and Canada both declined 17%, and Hong Kong plummeted nearly 57%. Prices for live and feeder cattle in the U.S. have sunk over the last few weeks, but did show life this week. That drop, though, is where we started when we talked with Mike Wednesday afternoon.
It was a full-blown dumpster fire, man. It was bad. You had almost a record downturn in this market. You've gone a complete 50% retracement from November 14th of 2014 until now. You've gone a complete 50% retracement. You might have got to the magical 61.8. I don't think you did, but you got pretty close. We've taken a lot of value out of these cattle in a very short period of time.
Outside of the last 2 days, we're talking on Wednesday, that thing was really graphic. How surprising was that for you?
That it got so bad? You know, that's the situation we're in now. It's kind of like my broker tells me. He said the live cattle market almost trades like bellies used to. And it does. The funds, when they decide which way they want to go, they force this thing in such dramatic leaps and bounds because they're so big and the other side of the trade is not, which would be the live cattle guys. They can just force this thing wherever. And now the last 2 days, we've seen the exact opposite. We've seen this market go limit up. And today we had expanded limits, and it was limit higher at one time, which would be $4.50. In 1 day, that's a pretty big bite. Now, it didn't finish there, so we won't have expanded limits tomorrow, I don't believe. But wow, that's a big up in 2 days.
Where are the funds now?
The funds were almost historically short. They were very short. It wasn't all the way to a new record, but they were historically short. So if they've turned around now and decided, hey, we're going to go the other way, we're going to snap back pretty hard and pretty fast, which we may have talked about that last time or not. Whenever the bottom is, it always snaps back really fast. Now, how far it's going to go, I don't know. I do not believe it's probably going to get to where it's profitable for these cattle that are going out now, because some of these cattle are still cattle that were bought with pretty high break-evens, and a lot of these cattle are large, and the packer's still going to apply discounts to them. So it's not all roses. It's just, it looks like maybe we crawled out of the abyss.
What are we talking for margins right now?
Negative, hugely negative margins. I know that there's been losses in the $300, $350 range. There may have been bigger losses than that because I know some guys were out really high break-evens. Fortunately here we haven't had a lot of cattle go out, so I'm not exactly sure what's going on here because we just haven't had the cattle go out. But I know that the losses have been staggering. The
last time we talked, we'd also talk about maybe a potential reprieve in corn prices. That didn't really come out either.
That hasn't happened, and I think it's a fact of a couple things. Harvest has started slow, corn's not drying down, beans are ready, guys are going after beans, and what little corn that's out there that's dry, some of the processors like say Columbus are paying such a tremendous premium. We, for instance, my guys quit harvesting wet corn and are hauling dry corn all the way to Columbus from Seward because the premium is so great for dry corn, which really makes it difficult for me to buy corn. And I don't foresee that changing until we get into what they like to call gut slot harvest, which is probably 2 weeks away yet.
Does that impact slaughter weights at all? I mean, in August they were up again more than 30 pounds higher than a year ago. Are you continuing to just throw weight on these animals?
We are, because you keep continuing to try to bring that break even down, and plus you still have that big, even as much as cash has dropped, which we got cash all the way down to like $1.18 last week. You're still putting it on for 85, 90 cents. You still got a spread there, but that's more of a historical spread than that big thing that we had. So you're going to see weights level off and start to taper back. I think the really big cattle, once we get that flush through the system, that's probably done for a little bit.
We also saw a retracement in retail beef prices in August, but can they go a little farther, do you think?
Oh, absolutely, they could go farther. The retailer has huge margins. He claims that he doesn't need to change the price because demand is so good. I kind of question that a little bit. had this discussion with my wife over the weekend, pulled the insert out of the paper. They had strip steaks for $6 a pound, and right below it you had pork roast for 97 cents, and on the back page you had chicken quarters for 49 cents. That's a little tough for us to compete with in this industry. We're gonna have to shrink that down a little bit. So the retailer could help us a little bit.
You both had the conversation, or you just kind of talked?
I just kind of
talked.
talked.
That's kind of what I was wondering. Okay, give me your forecast here, your outlook as we go from October into November.
I think you're finally going to get to, it's probably going to take November, because if these packers truly have the captive supply they claim to have, and they claim to be pretty full yet this month, so it's going to be hard to force cash higher unless they're not telling us the truth. That would never happen. But once you see the truly get the last ones of those big cattle harvested, I think you're finally going to get to these shorter supplies. I know in this feed yard, I've got about 4 pens of cattle to sell the rest of the year. So cattle are going to finally get really tight there in last part of October, first part of November. The question is, how far can we really push it? The packers got margin, the retailers got margin. Some of that's going to have to be willing to get squeezed back out and come back this way.